you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. An eloquent statement. I'm honored to be back here in the capital of Israel. As I said yesterday, I've met with every prime minister since Golda Meir. And it was a pleasure to be able to spend some time with you today and to get to know you better. Mr. Prime Minister, a deep love and respect for Israel has only taken a deeper hold of my heart and my gut since I first visited here back in 1973 as a young senator. I'm returning for my 10th visit as president, this time as president of the United States. But I've never forgotten what Prime Minister Meir told me when I was a brand new junior senator from the state of Delaware. It was just weeks before the Yom Kippur War, and she could see on my face that I was worried. As we stood before the press, taking questions and pictures, she looked at me, and without press hearing, she said, "Don't look so worried, Senator. Israel has a secret weapon." And I looked at her as I turned my head, and she's going to tell me. I just looked at her. She said, "We have nowhere else to go." I'll never forget what she told me. That was nearly 50 years ago. 50 years ago, the threats then were real, and the threats to Israel remain real today. The scourge of anti-Semitism still marches around the world. We must never forget the horrors which an unchecked hatred can lead. And that's why I immediately, when I returned, I wanted to visit Yad Vashem. When I landed yesterday to bear witness, to remember, to renew our vow of never, never again. At the same time, the Israel of today is not the Israel of 50 years ago. You've cultivated new resources, capabilities, new relationships, including a growing integration with neighbors in the region. You have new tools that keep Israel strong and secure. You have an ironclad commitment from the United States of America to Israel's security, an ironclad commitment. We'll make sure that Israel can defend itself by itself. When I was vice president under President Obama, we passed a record-setting agreement for Israel's security, $38 billion over a 10-year period. And I was proud that last year we also provided an additional $1 billion to replenish Israel's Iron Dome supplies, making 2022 the largest single year of military assistance that Israel has ever received. Yesterday, I viewed some of Israel's Iron Dome technology, as well as a very promising new Iron Beam technology, a laser-enabled missile defense system. These technologies and advancements are critical. They're critical because every rocket that is intercepted is a potential life, perhaps more, that has been saved. And as we move forward together, partners in both security and in innovation, the United States and Israel defense sectors will cooperate in new high-energy laser weapon systems that can defend Israeli lives, as well as lives of American service members. Israel and the United States also stand together to defend fundamental values and underwrite global security, prosperity, and freedom, not just for us, but for many around the world. And Putin's assault on Ukraine is a challenge to the peace and stability everywhere in the world. Putin's war must be a strategic failure, and the free world must sustain our resolve to help Ukraine defend its democracy. The United States will continue to support Ukraine and the Ukrainian people who have been devastated and displaced by the Russian violence. Today, you and I also discussed America's commitment to ensuring Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. This is a vital security interest to both Israel and the United States, and I would add, for the rest of the world as well. I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome, and will continue to work with Israel to counter other threats from Iran throughout the region, including support for terrorism, ballistic missile program that continues, and the proliferation of weapons to terrorists and proxies like Hezbollah. We'll also continue building on the Abraham Accords, which I strongly support because they deepen Israel's integration into the broader region and establish lasting ties for business, cooperation, and tourism. We've just completed the first Leaders Summit among Israel, India, the United States, and the United Arab Emirates to deepen the economic ties between the Middle East and the Indo-Pacific, to create new partnerships, to tackle global challenges like food insecurity and clean energy technology. Regional integration is also the goal of the historic Negev Forum, which took place here in Israel this past March. Israel's integration in the region, Israel's peace with its neighbors, these are essential goals. Tomorrow, I'll be the first American president to fly from Israel directly to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That represents important progress. And when I see the Saudi leadership tomorrow, I'll be carrying a direct message of peace and extraordinary opportunities that a more stable and integrated region could bring to the region and, quite frankly, the whole world. As we work together toward greater integration, we'll also continue to work toward a lasting negotiated peace between the State of Israel and the Palestinian people. Israel must remain an independent, democratic Jewish state, the ultimate guarantee and guarantor of security of the Jewish people, not only in Israel, but the entire world. I believe that to my core. And the best way to achieve that remains a two-state solution for two people, both of them who have deep and ancient roots in this land, living side by side in peace and security. Both states fully respecting the equal rights of their citizens, both people enjoying equal measures of freedom. And any more that takes us further from that outcome, I believe anything is detrimental to the long-term security of Israel. Prime Minister Lipid, Israel and the United States are natural partners because we share the same values. Our people share the same innovative spirit, the same determination to preserve and persevere through every single challenge. That's why we're launching a new high-level strategic dialogue on technology that's going to help Israel and the United States harness critical and emerging technologies and apply them to issues that matter most to our mutual futures. So thank you, Mr. President, for welcoming me back, for fostering and enduring bonds and continuing them that link the people of Israel and the United States. That's what this visit is about, affirming those ties that stretch back to just 11 minutes after Israel declared statehood, when the United States became the first country in the world to recognize Israel. And I assure you, it will be the last country in the world ever to walk away from Israel. Ties that have grown deeper and broader with each passing year and now encompass a 21st century partnership, one grounded on ageless values and looking squarely at the future. We're here to stay, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, like it or not, we're with you. There's no way out. I want to thank you very, very much for your hospitality. And I mean from the bottom of my heart that your security, is going to determine the security of Jewish people around the world for the rest of the world. It's critical. And we're in it with you. Thank you.